When you're ready, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the North Canton Committee of the Whole meeting, October 19th, 7 p.m. Ben, will you please call the roll?
Member Stroya?
Here.
Member Foltz?
Here.
Member Warren?
Here.
Member Soretta?
Here.
Member Peters?
Here.
Member Fonte?
Here.
And Member Revolt.
Here.
7 present.
All right, thank you, sir. First up, Finance and Property Committee. Chairwoman Warren, the floor is yours.
Okay, Gina, I will let you start this conversation with just the rates for the tax levies. And there was a really cool slide that you incorporated with our packages today that talked about just where the fees come from and what the auditor expects and thus. So if you want to talk about that first.
Okay, sure. So this starts with the tax budget. You remember in August, we start to put together the tax budget, and it just certifies to the county auditor that we have a need to collect and then distribute to us all of the taxes that were voted on in the city of North Canton. And so we have, Ben, do you have that page if you want to pull it up? But I can just run through the levies. We have 2.4 inside mills for the most part in the 530 district of North Canton. Those are inside unvoted mills. All of the unvoted mills brings into the general fund just a little over $1 million. There we go. And then the voted levies that we have the fire levy. It's a $500,000. It's a continuing, brings in $190,000 a year. The street improvement levy is a 5-year levy, $1 million, brings in about $380,000 a year. The storm sewer levy is a $1 million 5-year levy, $380,000 also. And then the ambulance EMS levy, we have 2, a continuing of $1 million and a 5-year $1.5 million. Total brings in around $950,000 a year. So again, we're going to accept these amounts and rates as presented, and by the County Budget Commission. The local authorities also have to accept those rates. We certify that back to the county, and then they go ahead and collect the property taxes and then remit them back to us the following calendar year.
Okay, had everyone been able to take a look at that sheet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so are there any other questions or concerns? Okay, then I will move that forward. We're all in agreement.
Okay.
And that will be on emergency, I think. Or no,
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
It's due tomorrow.
there we go. We'll be voting on that in our special meeting. Okay, so are we ready for item B?
Yeah, let's go.
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So I met with Gina, Pat, and the mayor by Zoom call last week. And we had a really great call talking about the upcoming year and the budget and the new changes and graphs and different markers to have a successful budget versus not, to different ways it's organized, to the way it's now categorized, to the transparency of it, to really just how cool this new budget is going to look just on a kind of schematic way, if we can think about it. I wasn't there to see it. Pat was very excited and was apparently doing some backflips over some things that just made the accounting process more fluid and not so cumbersome. And then again, the transparency, because everything is online, and the ability to move things in a more accountable way is just, I think, a newness that a lot of this new technology allows us to have. So thank you for moving forward with this and trying it. I know that it was challenging and a big deal for the finance department to work with it and get everybody on board. And so thank you for all your hard work and to your team. I know it's been a lot of effort, and thank you for getting us all in this readable format at first. I hope next year we don't need it in this way and everything's online and that we're capable to go through it that way. to save the paper and just to be more consistent with 2020 and 2021 and how we want to do things. So one of the things we want to do differently this year, and I don't think we've ever started it out like this, but I think with the mayor being new and Pat having now been in his position for a number of years, and Gina as the finance director, we wanted to hear from them and hear what their views of the city were and where they think certain appropriations should lean towards. And I don't remember, I guess, ever starting a budget meeting like that. And I thought that was really important because I think this is where we find out, do we line up with what administration thinks the goals are? Do we line up with what the mayor thinks that we should be moving towards? Is it half and half, or are we all pretty consistent in the way we think the city should be moving? So we're going to give them just a little time to do that. And then the goal would be for Gina to highlight some of the areas and kind of lead us through this packet and what we can look through. The graphs I thought were fabulous and very much explained a lot of just what was going over through the past. I don't know if you remember, but a lot of times I always ask about the past and what the numbers look like, and this definitely shows that. The goal tonight would not be to go through all 170 pages. And actually, I think that will be a change, is our goal is to not do that. Our goal is to look at the big picture, and Gina will explain how we do that in a really comprehensive way. They're building right now this thing called stories, because I did say how last year, I know that we all really liked the little asterisks at the bottom that said, well, this is what fire's doing different, or this is what admin is doing different. This is a new hire, different things. So she's building stories around all of that will really help us understand each of those funds. And the way it's broken down is really in funds, as opposed to, I guess, a little bit differently than it was last year. I mean, it was always in funds, but gosh, this is just so much easier to read. So Gina or Matt, and Matt met with Gina as well, and Pat and the mayor, and we felt like that grouping was really important as well, to have all of them available to meet with us to ask questions. So Matt and I have done that. Daryl has, I think, done that for the most part. And we really are hoping that within the next week, each of you will take the time to either call them by phone or go in and meet. And then we come back with the questions and concerns that maybe will already be answered if you have those individual meetings with them, but then we can really dive deep into it without maybe some of the questions that maybe doesn't make it look like we know what we're doing. So I'm hoping that you each take the time to do that. Are there any other questions? Or Matt, do you want to follow up with anything at the moment?
I like the approach, the way you laid it out. I think it gives a chance for everybody to review it before we ask very specific questions and get ready for the new format. And the new format, being a numbers guy, I nerded out. It was it was fantastic. So
were you backflip too?
I can't do those anymore, but if I could, I would have. It was awesome. It's very exciting.
Good. So Mayor, would you mind starting us with the process? And then if we maybe do Mayor, and then Patrick, if you could lead us, and then Gina, if you would kind of conclude. I feel like that would be like a really good order of how we could do things.
Well, yes, thank you, Stephanie. Members of the City Council, in your hands is the proposed 2021 annual budget for the City of North Canton. Before discussing specific items, I want to thank our Director of Finance, Gina Alabac, Finance Accountant, Tracy Munson, Director of Administration, Patrick Diorio, Deputy Director of Administration and Economic Development, Catherine Farina, Administrative Specialist, Kelly Hart, Administrative Assistant, Tracy Cole, and all the department heads who had a part in preparing this budget. I want to express my personal gratitude for the effort and extra time all of you put into the evaluation and preparation of the 2021 annual budget. There were several points where your excellent problem-solving skills and creativity allowed us to consolidate or restructure costly parts in the budget and resolve issues that might have easily escalated into roadblocks. You have done wonderful work in contributing your talents and skills to this project. I am looking forward to seeing what you can achieve in the future. The 2021 annual budget reflects a continuing commitment to the community vision and guiding principles that the City of North Canton is to be a safe, attractive, and economically vibrant city with an informed and involved public. As a city of choice, we are a diverse community that promotes our unique attributes and preserves our residential character. We commit ourselves to the betterment of the individual, the organization, and the community by fostering a spirit of trust, creativity, cooperation, collaboration, and communication, integrity, empathy, respect, and quality of service to all. This year, we are facing an unprecedented challenge, not only in our community and nation, but across the world. Our lives have been drastically altered because of COVID-19. How we gather as a community and how we do business has changed. Many of our small businesses, especially those in the food establishments and service industry, have been hit especially hard by the effects of COVID-19. Your city government has also been affected and has adjusted how we work and how we deliver services. North Canton was right in the beginning of preparing our fiscal year 2020 budget when the virus began to spread across the United States. Because the city has always been fiscally conservative, I want to let you know we are navigating through a challenging financial balance and prepared to deal with the financial impacts of COVID-19. The city is planning for adaptable decline, but we do not know the exact depth or length of the financial impact we will see from the effects of the virus yet. To meet the expected reduction in revenues, the city's budget cuts, reductions, or delays will necessitate assessing the expenditures for several projects and programs. I look forward to the city's finance department will be continually reviewing revenue streams in the upcoming budget year and holding quarterly budget meetings with the mayor and council for any needed adjustments. We are hoping revenues will increase enough that the city will be able to fund planned capital projects and review potentially those delayed or cut back under an approved budget. I can promise our residents that the city will continue to provide you with high quality services. I want to thank our citizens for choosing to live in North Canton and be a part of our community. Together, we will get through these unprecedented times. We here in the city government will continue to work hard every day to make North Canton the safest and best place to live in Ohio. I want to thank you for the privilege of addressing council as we prepare to go forward with an explanation of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I hope a lot of people are listening, Mayor. And we appreciate you saying thanks to all of Gina's team and to everyone working in this environment. Thank you very much. Patrick?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Director, thank you for all that you've done and helping work with this as well.
I appreciate your acknowledgement. Thank you. So what we were looking at here as we got into, as the mayor said, into the beginning stages of this calendar year 2020, the administrator sits with the mayor, talks about what it is that his focus is for the budget process, new mayor, new focus. And we took to heart that this is the mayor's budget. The mayor is to propose the budget. And I think to your point, Stephanie, this is a first, really. I think in the past, for as far back as we could really care to look, it hasn't been as much focus from the administration on the budget as it has been laid on the finance department. So we started making that change, a couple years ago, but I think we fully embraced it this go around. So in conversations, in the second quarter of the year with the mayor, what is it that in his observation of his going around, talking with the department heads, interacting with the staff to kind of get an idea of where things were, we really came back with two observations that I think were important and that we felt should be integrated into this budget for 2021. One is, the impact on our operations from running at, basically 92 or 93 employees for so many years. And what has that done to operations on the surface? Yes, we've continued to deliver good results for the community, but behind the scenes, behind the curtains, so to speak, what's happening in the departments? What processes are in danger of tripping us up down the road? And so each department was able to put together kind of an assessment of where they were with internal operations within their department and how that might be affected with this personnel load that we've been carrying for so long. And if there were a plan to improve upon that, what would that look like? And then the second was then the impact of near retirements. We have a number of key individuals who are near retirement, at retirement, past retirement, that could go at any time. And do we have the personnel in place that can pick up with all of that institutional knowledge and transfer it to the new person? Or do we approach this stone cold and then potentially trip up with things that are left unattended to or unaddressed because of a sudden changeover in personnel? So with that, we then began the third quarter with the administration taking the lead, meeting with department leaders, a team in some cases from each department, and reviewing their previous performance, reviewing these outlines from the mayor, and getting a preview of what we might be looking at in 2021, all the while knowing what we have been operating under out of finance, which was the COVID lockdowns, so to speak, and how that is affecting operations and our finances. So we talked about the operations in each department. Assisting me directly was Kelly Hart, our administrative specialist, and she was in every budget meeting with me and had budget meetings of her own with department heads. So from that, we met then the second time on the budget with the department heads when they would take this data and transfer it into the OpenGov system. The third time we met was to review the data that was transferred into the system. Fourth time was then to meet with the finance director and her team and the department leaders together. The fifth time, it was the administration and the finance department. The sixth time, it was the administration, finance department, and all department heads in a group meeting to talk about the budget and where we were and what else we yet needed to do to get this budget more in line with 2021 and where we thought finances would be. The seventh time, then it was administration and the finance department on their own. And the eighth time, as Stephanie alluded to, the mayor, the council chair, the admin team met. And then a ninth time, repeated that with the vice chair. So all in all, 9 meetings that we had where we were discussing for significant periods of time, sometimes the entire day, consuming the finance of the city and how we were approaching it.
Hey, Pat, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just in the past, how many times would you have done that?
4. I did it 4 times last year.
Including our meetings?
Not including city council meetings.
Okay.
Behind the scenes meetings to the point where you got it to launch at city council.
Got it. Okay. Just checking.
Yep. So as you'll note in your document, and I think Gina, may address, but there we have identified a number of positions where we felt that we needed to make that step, as the mayor had outlined. In council, it was looking for a part-time council clerk, I believe. In finance, we're looking for a full-time deputy finance director. We're looking for an operations manager in the service street department, water distribution department operations manager, which we don't have. A battalion chief in the fire department. This is someone who administratively backs up the Chief Bacon. We don't have that. Also, a fire inspector for Gary Cohen, who is at or near retirement. Those are some of the key new positions. I think that's outlined on page 3 in your document. We should note that in full disclosure, for the last 2 years, we have been budgeting for an additional administrative assistant in admin. We have not filled that in previous years, but we've tried, and we were just not pleased with the pool of candidates. We recently launched that process again to see what we would find, and this time we found a much better pool of candidates. So that has been budgeted for 2020. We're in the process of interviewing some candidates and hope to finalize one if there is a successful candidate yet this year. So that is budgeted again for next year, but this time we may in fact have that filled. You'll note that in some of the other stuff that Gina prepared, I'll let her explain why she's prepared this document, but just to note that as far as capital equipment purchases, for this budget cycle, the only thing that we're budgeting for are 3 police patrol vehicles. Council will recall that in 2020, we were slated for the rotation of acquiring new police vehicles, but because of COVID, we put that off. So we're looking to do that in 2021. And at some point then, that might not be tonight, but probably at a later meeting, we do want to talk about some of those funding mechanisms that Gina had outlined from the county auditor, and get a better understanding of how they are meeting or not meeting their targeted needs. With that, that was kind of my overview of the process that I wanted council to be aware of. And we do appreciate working closely with the finance department and with the council clerk in getting this all prepared. It was a team effort by every stretch of that word. And I did do backflips over some of the new technology that was brought forward, because this will take time that was, I felt, wasted on some mundane preparation work by applying some technology to it and allowing us to streamline our operations so that we could spend more time on more quality issues with the budget. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So Gina, now it's to you. And again, thank you to your team. Thank you, Mayor, for saying each one of their names. And I just think that's so important to be recognized. I know what a team effort it was, and with each of the departments. And I think just from those past 2, from the mayor and from the administration, you can see how much work was put into this budget. And I now think with Gina, our director of finance, drilling down. And Gina, if you could give maybe a couple of those examples, and maybe you already were, that caused either Matt or Pat to do backflips, I think that would be helpful. Just so that they can see that, because even if you're not a numbers person, and I'm a big picture person, I got it. And it was significant when that aha moment went off for me to say, oh my gosh, the time that we're going to save, or just to do this differently, will not only be helpful for us, but for the department heads to not get stuck in some of the weeds and some of just the things that you have to go through with government, just to streamline. So thank you, and I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thanks so much. Yes, I can't reiterate the teamwork enough. It has taken so many people to get this to where it is. And I think the importance of it is the transparency. So I want to start at the end and then maybe back up a little bit. northcantonoh.opengov.com. And we're going to say it again throughout the presentation so you don't miss it, but northcantonoh.opengov.com is where you will find the online budget book. And we have, we're still in the process of building the reports, there is a comprehensive annual budget report that we are working on right now through this process. So we're building reports, and there are also stories. And yes, the stories are so important because pictures are great. The graphs are wonderful. They're interactive. So you can click on the graphs, and below it will tell you the numbers that are building those graph pictures, and it will drill down further, not just by fund, but it'll go into the department. And if you want to see what's personal services, or you want to see what purchase services or supplies are for, we put 2018, 2019, the current year, and then 2021, of course, the budget is out there for next year. One of the future things that we will be able to see then, we're also building monthly reports. So this online budget book integrates then with our financial software of SSI, and every month when we close the monthly report will be out there, and so we'll be able to track the progression of the budget and be able to make those modifications through council when needed, as timely as they are happening. So that's the overview, the top 3,000 foot high overview. Okay, so I do want to just maybe run through the budget brief, and that is a document that we put together to sort of explain the highlights of the budget. And so in the total appropriations for the budget, and we're not going to get into any of the details today, but I just want to hit the highlights. All funds is $37,442,900. That is net of interfund transfers. And our general fund is about 17.4 million. Those are just some highlights. The target carryover in our general fund, and this is where when we build our budget and everyone puts their needs and wants on the floor, on the table. And whenever we talked about all the department heads in one room, everyone is there representing their department and the true needs for that department. But now we have to prioritize because they're all coming from the pot of money. If it's not a dedicated or levy property tax, then we're all pulling from income tax to support all of these operations, the parks, the police, the dispatch, the general administration, the legal services. All of those things are coming from one pot of money, your streets, your sidewalks, all of those things. So now we have to prioritize among each other to decide what we're going to be able to do next year. So our target carryover, because the income tax deadline is April 15th, that's about 4 months through the year. Our target carryover is 25% of our revenues to get us to that deadline. It's just a general best practice in all cities, 25% of your revenues. This budget that we are building, when we put together the general fund and the income tax, we're at 29%. So while you look at the budget and it will show that we are overspending current year revenues next year, keep in mind a couple of things. We're falling after a year from COVID, and so we're catching up on some of the projects that were delayed and some of the hirings that you heard Mr. DiOrio talking about, all those things that were delayed because of COVID. We have built into the budget to catch up on those things in 2021. Now, if we're not seeing the income tax, and we'll be able to track that, remember, if we're not seeing those things, the revenues coming in where we're projecting them, then we delay some of the expenditures as well. But we'll be able to keep an eye on those things. So we are hitting a good target carryover with the budget that we have built. We already did talk about the levies, and we've talked about the position changes. The capital budget, we want to have a Board of Control meeting in the beginning of January that will list every item costing over $50,000. That's the Board of Control limit, to approve everything that is going to be approved in the budget. So that in the beginning of January, after Board of Control approves the items that were approved in the budget, department heads can then go ahead and start those projects. They can put them out for bid. They can, there is an I'm not sure, Ben, if you want to pull up that list, we can go straight to that. It's on page 16 in the budget document. Yes. So these are all the things. Again, there are other capital items, but these are the items that are costing over $50,000. So these are the things that, if you scroll down through, looking at capital improvements fund. So of course, that's the major fund that highlights all of the general capital improvements in the city. When you get to the online budget book, you'll be able to go, and we have this organized in a couple different ways. You can type in 330 if you know what our funds are. You can type in capital improvements if you want to. And either way, it's going to take you to that report or that story, and it's going to explain to you what we're doing in that fund. So if there are no words yet, it means we're still working on them, but those are some of the highlights. So that is going to be one of the changes we're looking at next year. And then if we want to back up just a little bit to the appropriations ordinance, the format of that starts on page 5. So the appropriations ordinance, we are organizing in a fashion that is by fund and then function, which is department, such as police, dispatch. And then within each department is personal services and then all other operating. So we have a total for each department and then a total for each fund. And then after the end of the 9 pages, when we go through all of the funds, we have a total appropriations. Total is $48,227,900. That includes all of the transfers from one fund to another fund. And those transfers, Ben, if you want to just go down one more page, I see right there, those are the transfers that we're listing for next year, included in the appropriations budget. So it's a comprehensive ordinance to approve $2 million transferring out of general fund to support fire and EMS and our streets and our capital improvements. Another $7.5 million coming out of income tax going into capital improvements in general fund. And then our water fund has $1.2 million in capital projects that gets paid out of just a water capital fund. The next ordinance that I want to just talk about is page 15, and that's our pay ordinance. And the pay ordinance these are just the exempt positions. All the exempt positions are not covered by any union contract. And so we wanted to discuss the language at the top of the ordinance where we would like for the exempt positions to be able to increase by cost of living, not established by anything local, but rather by the Social Security Administration, whatever they decide in the third quarter for cost of living increases. The other piece to these are the maximum rates for each position. This is not exactly what every person in this position is making. There are some room for merit and growth when they're hired underneath the maximums, but these are the maximums that we've authorized to pay people in these positions. And then the other piece of that is market rate adjustments. When we looked at these last March, there hadn't been any market rate adjustments in some time. And so we want to be able to hire quality people and to keep this pay ordinance or positions current with the market. So those are the highlight, the big pieces of the budget, that the formal pieces that we will be asking to move forward for first reading and second reading and third reading and establish our 2021 budget. And I just want to say one more time, northcantonoh.opengov.com. And we'll be following through this and building this over the next, even the next couple of months as we go through the readings. It will continue to grow. So for the most current budget, that's where you'll find all the information.
Okay, thank you, Gina. If you had to say to council right now or anyone listening, the next steps as far as, hey, this is what you really should focus on, and we're going to be building those stories, what would you say? So even when they come in and have questions for you, is there anything that you think would be helpful?
Yeah, so I want you to get online, and I want you to click around there. You can't change anything, you can't ruin anything, you can't move anything. But if you like the visuals, you can change. Maybe you don't like the bar graphs, maybe you want to look at pie graphs. Maybe we can change the visuals to be exactly what you want to see. Oh, thank you, Ben. There we go. Yes, we can change these so that it makes sense to what you're looking for, what data you're looking for. Ben, I don't know if you just, for fun, click on the general fund on the left. I'm just going to give you a quick example. Now here's just 18, 19, and 20 and 21. And when you see how when you mouse over the columns, you get the numbers. Now, if you scroll below, you're going to have all the numbers that are building. Just maybe scroll down. There's all your numbers. that are building those graphs, but you could also click on them. And if you want to expand even further, you drill down into it, I guess you could say. You drill down into, now you're going to get all as far as a check number, but for the most part, these are the same GL accounts, general ledger accounts, that our department heads on a daily basis are entering requisitions, and are going through that workflow process for approvals that end up getting accounts payable checks out to pay our vendors and purchase equipment and buy supplies, and it rolls up into these reports. So transparency wise, ongoing through the year, you're basically going to be seeing our checkbook. And I think that is the most important piece to this OpenGov program, is that it is the public's checkbook. It is their money. We are just managing it. And so we want to be as transparent as possible. We want to give as much information as anybody wants. So that's where I say, drill down in there. If you feel like you've messed up the graphs, or just get out and get back in and it resets itself, or click somewhere else and come back in. Over on the top left bend, you see the stories. Yeah, and so here's where we're building, and I know we don't have them all quite complete yet, but if you scroll down to maybe let's look at, general fund, those are each departments. Maybe let's go to a different one. It does open in a new tab. Let's go to the fire levy fund maybe, so we can see a whole fund. And so this will give you the revenues that have come in for the fire fund in the last few years. But up on the top, that's where we're building the stories. You see, that's where the explanations are coming in. And we'll build these over years. Obviously this year we're starting. So the more information we give, we know that's going to be the best. And so we're going to work on it. If there's something anybody wants to see, let us know. We try to give a general explanation, and then we also try to talk about what's happening in the projected budget.
So Gina, when you build those stories, and if you see something that comes in, for example, from the fire department, do you then reach out to whoever is the head of that department and say, can you write me a paragraph about, I don't know, why you're buying this, or why this expense is this, or how are those stories built?
Specifically, those individual purchases are done through requisitions or purchase orders. And we watch that those go through a workflow of approvals to the Department of Administration and then over to the Finance Department. That actually now it has to coincide with what they built their budget for. So if they built their budget to buy 3 police cars, and then we see that requisition come through, we check that that's exactly what was in the budget. So as we go through the year, we know what the budget was built on. We started this year with zero-based budgeting, and I'm not going to go into all the different ways of budgeting, but sometimes you will start with what you have and then add 3% for inflation or those kind of things. But this year we really truly wanted to build the budget. So we started every department with zero-based budgeting, and then they went in and put line items for, I know what my chemicals at the water plant are going to cost, and I know what my contract for services on Parks Department or whatever it is, whatever they have in the past. We ran all the detail reports for them to be able to see, and they know how they built their budget. So again, I know this is a work in progress, but I believe that we have so much institutional knowledge that Patrick spoke of earlier that we want to build this and gather as much information as possible into this, and it will just continue to grow.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that explanation. So we did want to, of course, leave time for our questions. You all have the packets. If you want, or if you have questions right now, you are more than welcome to address the mayor, the director of operations, director of finance, whoever you want, and ask some of those questions. Again, we really want to do the deep dive next week. So we don't want to get into specific line items or specific allocations. We want that to come next week after you've had an opportunity to talk with any of the directors or the mayor.
This is Dominic. I just wanted to say this is really, it kind of breaks it down almost to the layman view, really, with the stories and the graphs. It is really easy to understand. So I appreciate all the extra effort and the technology. I really do.
Yeah. I really think this is a huge undertaking every year, and I am amazed how well the process works every year. And I do applaud you, especially for this thing. This is pretty pretty out there and going farther than we've ever been before. So I applaud all of you that I mean, the mayor went through the names, and I'm not going to go through all those, and I agree, it is the administrative budget, and council is informed and approves it for the committee. That's how I've always thought about it. And to me, it's one of the most important things that we do, to go through this thing and approve this and ask questions about it. Because now's the time to ask, because when we get into June and somebody asks, why are we spending this? Well, because we talked about it back then, not because, oh, I didn't know that. So that's why I like going through it page by page on the floor. I think it's very transparent to the public, and I don't see why we wouldn't do that, take the extra time. I like all this. I think it's going to make it even better, but I don't think we should be skipping, things that we should be doing in front of the public, going through this, page by page, because it didn't take very long last year, because we kind of got it, we understood it, and it was informed to us. So I do think we should still go through this thing out front, and be very transparent about where things are going and ask questions out front.
Well, and I think the obvious thing is going to be that it is so transparent because it's all online and it's all in front of us. And, it's 163 pages, but a lot of that is graphs, and we just broke it into smaller components. So I don't think it was a matter of not going through it. I think, honestly, by some of the explanations up front, it's not that you're omitting going through any of it. You just are going to have such good explanation up front. And there's going to be those stories that are built that are going to explain. I mean, I guess I think, honestly, Mark, half the time people came and they would look at the little asterisks and then say, oh yeah, so we're buying 4 cars instead of 3 cars, but they didn't really have an overall understanding of the budget. And then we would have those questions in June. So I feel like by us going through it, taking this week to look at it in this manner, talking with Gina, I mean, I would hope again that every one of us goes, because if there's going to be a lot of strange questions next week and you didn't go to talk to Gina, I would say those that went are going to be a little put off that you didn't take the time to go this week. It didn't take Matt or Daryl or myself that long. So I feel like each of us owe it to ourselves and to the community to do that. And then I feel like it will be such a more fluid process. And if it goes page by page, Mark, that's great. It just means we understand it all the more. But I honestly feel like with all of their explanations, it's going to be so obvious that we won't even need to.
Madam Chair, I would say to help with Member Soretta's observation there, that one of the things that I really appreciated that Gina had brought to the table on this time is just that single sheet that she talked about. I think she said it was page 16, which is a listing of all the items that we would expect if we were moving forward to go through to the Board of Control in 2021. These were all things that would have to be approved by council. Now, that what's interesting to me is that they're all on one page.
Right.
They're not spread out through 50 or 60 pages that you have to look at the bottom. They're all right here. This is it.
Well, and let's be honest, those were the things that people would notice because they were big ticket items, and have an understanding in that moment to say, oh, wow, a large water replacement for $50,000. Well, what's that about? And that's what we would pick on. Yet here it is on page 16, all in front of you. And so I guess that's what I'm saying, is there's so much more in front of us that is just so easy to read and understand, that it isn't going to make us on page, 37 to just all of a sudden be like, yeah, what's that large number mean? So we need a pipeline on Pittsburgh. It's not going to happen this time because it's all there.
And I guess the exciting part to me, and maybe just didn't come through with that, but if you added up the total number of items on that page, it looks to me like it's probably about 35 or so items. And what I'm looking for is the corollary to this sheet, and that is that there, come the first of the year, there is a ordinance, I would hope, that would go through City Council that authorizes the mayor through the Board of Control to advertise and receive bids for all of these projects. They would already have been vetted by the council, approved in the budget. Why do we want to come back with 35 different ordinances all throughout the year? Let's get this out there so that all of these department heads can go out immediately and start advertising and get the best pricing for what it is that they're trying to accomplish in 2021. still has to ultimately, go to a bidding process and the low bid and then go to a board of control and get awarded, but it helps speed everything up. And we'll be doing a similar thing in the board of control.
I totally agree with that, Pat. That's a great
That's got to
idea.
help city council as well. So
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Well, and Pat, wasn't that one of the things, and Gina and I actually talked about this sheet today because we were talking about finances over 50,000. But this was one of those very things that you were doing backflips about.
Yes. Because
Yeah.
I know what it meant. I know what it means for council.
Yeah.
And I know what it means for administration to be able to put that together that way. And that's never been done before, and it's brilliant. And I thank Gina for it.
Yeah, Pat, this is Stephanie. May
Yes,
I offer
please.
a comment? This is Daryl.
Yes.
I just want to echo what others have said about what I'm just going to call it the omnibus border control ordinance. The advantage of doing it and doing it soon once the budget has been passed means that you can bid and rebid during that budget. If you're not satisfied with your initial price, you can pull it back and go. You have time to go back out again. And I think one of the things that we've learned, certainly under Rob's tutelage, is that timing can swing a bid or sway a bid substantially. So I think there's a real opportunity here to potentially save the taxpayers money. That's a
Great
Well,
point,
think
Daryl.
about what happened at Bitzer Park. How much there was.
Absolutely.
I mean, we just had it
Absolutely.
happen this year.
Yes, and again, the idea is to get the stuff out so you don't have to necessarily pay a premium, particularly on some of the services or other things. The contractors can get it scheduled. I think the other thing is this, Pat, and I would come back to you, and I don't want to belabor this tonight, but I think it is, we're in the business of providing vital services, and in many ways, the kinds of things that we provide require special people to do them, special knowledge. We've got unique circumstances here in town. And I think the focus on personnel and this whole notion of succession,
Yeah.
if we were a small business, a financial advisor would be talking to us about that very issue.
Mhm.
Pat, I don't know. Am I reading too much into this?
No, sir.
Stephanie,
Yep.
Mayor Wilder.
I mean,
Yes, of course.
yeah, I mean, Pat, I mean, we look at all the things that are electrical in town that we rely on. We take them for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'd all be amazed at how much of that knowledge to make that electrical system operate resides in the head of one person.
Well, it is very true, Daryl. I mean, and we talk about, I know I've talked with members of council before, just this last year, about, inspections, the fire department. And, it really kind of rests and has rested with one person for the last several years.
Right.
And, the years have passed and, we want him to stay as long as he wants to, but it would not be prudent to start that process of the transfer of that knowledge to someone else who will have, an even longer time span to be with the city of North Canton.
Yeah. So again, I think, Pat, in the mayor's budget, pursuant to the charter, you've not only looked short term, but I think the team is attempting to really look down the road. I think we all understand, at least all the members of council, and I hope the public does, is that at the end of the day, it's expertise that makes this city run. And while we can easily take the functioning for granted, you turn on your tap, you got water. There's a whole depository of knowledge behind that tap water to make it work. And it's our responsibility to make sure it does, regardless of who's retiring. So I think it's smart, guys.
Thank you.
If I
President,
may,
Council, do you have anything?
I think the mayor was going to speak.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mayor Water.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to, what what Gina and her team has provided for us through northcantonohio.opengov.com is a sense of innovation for us and some forward thinking, and helping us strengthen and increase our financial stability. And that's part of our vision that I have for the city, and by her leadership in that part of watching our finances, I think this is a great step for us as we, again, bring transparency and communication to all of you and our city. So again, as we go forward, what a great tool that she has provided for us here. And it's a little change up, maybe it's a paradigm change in the way we've done things in the past, but I'm very supportive and excited as we go forward and as we take this living document and keep working with it. So again, it's a tribute to, I think, our vision of being forward thinking and trying to do the best for our community and having open government. So thank you very much for that comment. Time.
Okay, anyone else?
Steph, I'll just say that I'm really impressed and excited. I mean, I've been through 16, 17 of these budget.
Wow.
This is the most impressed that I've ever seen. I mean, I'm blown away. Gina, well, Pat, Mayor, well done.
Okay, so if there are no other comments, then I would move to put it on the agenda for next week. And we will give it a first reading and we'll go through all 3 readings. So we'll have plenty of time. And again, if you haven't reached out, please take the time, even if it's just a short amount of time, whatever you have this week, please just take the time to reach out and go over a few questions, or Gina can just guide you through a couple more things.
Stephanie, you've moved and I will second that we place it on the agenda.
Great.
I hope you've got 4.
I would. Okay, well, thanks, Steph. I appreciate it. Moving on, personnel and safety. Gina touched on this in her part of the discussion early. We wanted to make some amendments to Chapter 155, specifically Section 155.04. She did touch on creating an automatic increase based on the Social Security Administration's cost of living adjustment. And Ben, if you could touch on a few of the items, there's a few new positions. One is funded, one is not in the budget. I'll turn it over to you here for a quick minute.
So there are 2 new positions listed in subsection F, the schedule of full-time compensated employees. First is the fire battalion chief, which you'll see right under the superintendents. And that is included in the budget for 2021. And then the second is an assistant clerk of council, which is right above the second position block. And that full-time position is just being added to the list of possible positions and is not currently in the budget for 2021.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this? And I will add as a side note, if I could real quick, Daryl and I have had a couple conversations regarding this, specific to the title of clerk of council. At some point, we'd like to make adjustment to that to make it a more comprehensive title for what Ben is actually doing for us. More to come on that, but just a heads up that that we are thinking in that direction in that regard. So, and Daryl, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think this is people should just think about what that title might look like, given the responsibilities Ben's assumed.
I agree.
I like that, and kind of going with our budget to just think more ahead that this role has changed so much with even the few years that I've been here. I can't even imagine for those of you that have been here for longer. And you're right, it needs to include it. And then that when Ben goes on to bigger and better things, not that you're leaving, Ben, but it just gives us the flexibility to be much better at hiring and really getting the right candidates.
Agreed. So anyone else have any other comments?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. So what we're voting on here to approve a compensation rate every adjustment based on what Social Security and cost of living every year. Is that what we're looking at doing here? Is that what this is saying?
Yes.
So every year, based on Social Security or market rate adjustments, people will get a raise every year.
No, that
No,
will
that's
set.
not what
That
it's
will.
saying.
No, it's not what it's
Okay.
saying. It will set the
Okay.
maximum.
Set the maximum for their title, for their
Yeah.
their.
Yeah, there won't be automatic raises. It'll just increase that maximum based on that COLA. Okay, whether they get that or not, based on some of the things that Gina touched on, revenues and adjust, with COVID and everything, that type of thing. So,
Which is amazing. We're doing that this year when the mayor just said we're in financial kind of issues, and this is a COVID year. I don't know how well this looks that we're doing it this year when we can easily kind of keep our budget to where we need to be and do this next year or sometime down the road. But just kind of not really best timing, I should say, for something like this.
well, I don't necessarily look at it that well, first of all, we're not giving automatic 3% or whatever the COLA would be increases every year just by virtue of doing this. What it does, it allows the flexibility to do that based on if there are consistent revenues, with COVID, as we get into next year and the revenues are coming back, then you're not going to see those, those annual raises being given out. Pat, I mean, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. So let's first make sure that we understand outside of the collective bargaining agreement, there are no automatic pay increases.
Correct.
There are none. As far as I know, there never have been. What this does is, again, sets the maximum salary. How does someone get a pay increase? There is a performance review. There's an annual review that is done for every employee of the city. Department heads review their employees, administration reviews the department heads. And based on budget, based on availability of funds, based on performance, a determination is made on whether or not a person should be given a cost of living adjustment or whether they should be promoted to a different position. So every year since I've been here, that is what I have done. I can't speak to practices before that.
Right. And if you remember the first time that we adjusted the maximum, I'm not even sure we based it on anything. I think it was just like 6% across the board. And that was 2 or 3 years ago, Patrick, if I'm not mistaken, that allowed administration and department heads to, offer up to that 3% increase. They didn't hit that ceiling the first year.
Yeah, I think we did one last year though, or earlier this year, I should say, Mr. President, where, we hired a police chief and council followed that recommendation to change that because it was an impediment to hiring a police chief.
Right. Anyone else have any comment in regards to this, what you're seeing, or Mark's comments?
This is Dominic. I get what Mark's saying. And, you just want to be cognizant of, the budget and COVID and everything. So, obviously it's a merit-based thing. And it sounds like it would just give the administration the flexibility to be able to make those adjustments on a case-by-case basis, if that's the way I understand it. Is that correct, Pat?
That's correct. And again, keep in mind that this is focused on these dozen or so employees. The other 80 employees or so are covered under a collective bargaining agreement, and those pay rates adjustments are made automatically every year. That's why I said, outside of a collective bargaining agreement, there are no automatics, but inside the collective bargaining agreement, those are ongoing regardless of what our circumstances are financially.
Well, and Pat, I'll even say this, historically speaking, when the Hoover Company left, these exempt employees, I'm not sure how long they went without raises, but it was quite a while. I'm thinking 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer than that. Am I correct in that?
That is correct. It was longer than that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So Pat, they would get, or Jeff, maybe you know, they wouldn't get a raise, but they would get the cost of living increase.
No, there were years where they didn't get anything.
They didn't get
okay.
anything. No, it was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the number was 7 years.
That was my recollection as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and what this does, this changes, well, it allows the maximum compensation rates based on the COLA, Social Security Administration, cost of living increase. And that would be the increase, the max for each position, not guaranteeing that raise per position, but allowing, go ahead.
So it takes the category, say if it's admin or whatever, and moves that position just to what it could be, but not necessarily anyone's getting that.
Correct.
Okay. And I understand, Mark, what you're saying too. I mean, we had a decrease. There wasn't a cost of living. We're not going to get it back. I know there's things to come that aren't going to happen. So I understand what you're saying definitely about timing as well. Like, I think you're right. There is that we could do it another time. I think you're putting it in place. So I guess that it's there for the future.
Well, this is a section of the budget being proposed.
Right.
This should be done every year.
Yeah.
Every year, it should be all brought together in one comprehensive package as it is now, so that it's annually reviewed, along with a number of other things that council should be reviewing annually.
We just don't have to move anybody. It's there, but we don't have to move anybody's salary.
Correct.
Correct. To put this in perspective, guys, the number for 2021, the adjustment is 1.3%. So we're not talking 3 or 5 or anything like that.
Right.
It's 1.3.
Okay.
Matt, I do have a question for you. Historically, what does that number average historically?
I would say it's historically under 3. I actually have a sheet that has all the COLA adjustments back to the existence. I can shoot over to you. But it's I think the year before. Let me just check real quick.
Yeah, if you have that, shoot it to Ben and have Ben copy counts.
I can do that.
I'd be interested to see what that is. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Daryl, anything on that?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that if there's no other questions, that concludes this agenda, committee of the whole. I entertain a motion to adjourn out of this.
Moving this forward, sir.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm assuming we have 4 to move this forward.
Revolt says yes.
All right. All right. Sounds like we do. So we'll move this forward. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn out of this meeting.
So moved.
Revolt moves. Revolt seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. We are adjourned out of the committee of the whole. At this time, I'd like to call to order the North Canton City Council meeting, October 19th, 2020. The time is 8:05 p.m. Opening prayer, Mark, Dominic, anyone?
Sure. Be glad to.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Lord, as we enter this meeting tonight, thank you for the honor to serve you in this community. Give us the courage to stand up and make the right decisions, even when others stand up against us. Give us the determination to move our community towards a direction that is good for all. And give us the compassion for the understanding of the less fortunate and the elderly. Thank you for guiding us through this and giving us such a wonderful committee. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mark. All right, if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Ben. Will you please call the roll?
Member Stroya,
Here.
Member Soretta,
Here.
Member Revolt,
Here.
Member Fonte,
Here.
Member Warren,
Here.
Member Peters,
Here.
and Member Foltz.
Here.
7 present.
All right, thank you very much. We have nothing for your consideration tonight. So moving on to recognition of visitors. I'm seeing we have none.
Correct?
Okay. All right then. Well, let's move on to new business. May I have a motion and a second to allow consideration of resolution 8-20 without a committee report under Council Rule 111.06C.
Revolt moves.
Warren second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. With that, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only resolution 8-20.
Revolt moves.
Sure, a second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Ben?
A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission, authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor and declaring the same to be an emergency.
All righty, Chairwoman Warren.
Okay, we talked about this in our previous meeting, and we had a data sheet that kind of explained the rates and how they were in line with the city county auditor as well. Are there any questions or concerns? If none, I move to adopt.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. And may I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
So move, Warren.
moves.
Warren second.
Revolt seconds.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, may I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 8-20 under suspension of the rules?
Revolt moves.
Sure, a
Warren
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Now, final call to council for new business. All right, seeing none, our meeting calendar for October rounds out for next Monday, October 26th. We have a 6:30 p.m. public hearing on proposed amendments to the outdoor dining, and then followed by a 7 p.m. city council meeting. And with that, that concludes our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Warren.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone. Good work.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night, Shannon.
You too.
Thanks.